In a quiet African village, nestled between towering baobab trees and a winding river, lived Nia, the daughter of the village chief. She was known far and wide for her beauty, her wisdom, and her grace. Her dark skin shimmered under the sun, her eyes full of kindness and strength. She wore a dress of white, blue, and red, flowing like the river that gave the village life. Adorned with beads and jewels, she carried herself with the elegance of a princess, respected and admired by everyone. But Nia's heart had never been stirred by love until the day a stranger arrived in the village. David, a white missionary, had traveled from far away to bring the message of Christianity. His pale skin, light hair, and blue eyes made him stand out in the village. The villagers watched him with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Who was this man? Why had he come? The chief welcomed him, but with a strong reminder: our daughters do not marry outsiders. David, respectful of the village ways, tried to keep to himself, but fate had other plans. One afternoon, as Nia went to fetch water from the river, she saw David by the mission. He was reading a book, his brow furrowed in concentration. Something about his calm nature, the way he seemed lost in thought, caught her attention. She paused, her heart fluttering in a way she had never felt before. David looked up, their eyes meeting across the clearing. He smiled, and Nia, unsure why, smiled back. From that moment, their paths began to cross more often. At first, they exchanged polite greetings, but soon their conversations grew longer. Nia found herself intrigued by his stories of faraway lands, the strange language he spoke, and the kindness in his eyes. David, in turn, was captivated by her beauty, her intelligence, and the quiet strength she carried. Weeks passed, and their connection deepened. Nia would visit the mission whenever she could, and the two would sit together, talking for hours. They spoke of the world beyond the village, of dreams, of faith, and soon of love. But Nia knew the rules. She was a princess, bound by tradition to marry within the tribe. Still, their hearts had already chosen each other. Their secret love grew, despite the danger. They met in hidden corners of the village, in the quiet of the forest, or under the cover of night by the river, whispering promises of a future together, even though they knew the risks. But secrets in a village never last long. Rumors began to swirl, whispers in the marketplace, glances exchanged in the shadows. The elders noticed Nia's frequent trips to the mission, and soon the whole village was buzzing with gossip. The elders grew suspicious, and one day, one of them saw Nia and David together by the river. The news spread like wildfire. The village was in turmoil, with some angry that Nia had broken tradition, while others admired the courage it took to love someone forbidden. The chief, her father, summoned her to the council. Nia walked through the village with her head held high, but her heart beat wildly in her chest. What would her father do? In the center of the village, surrounded by elders and villagers, Nia stood before her father. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the gathering. The air was thick with tension. "Nia," the chief began, his voice steady but filled with disappointment. "You are to marry within our tribe. It is our way. David is not one of us." Nia looked up at her father, tears stinging her eyes, but she did not waver. "Father," she said, her voice strong, "I have followed our traditions all my life. I honor them. But my heart does not follow rules. My heart belongs to David." The crowd gasped, whispers rippling through the village like wind through the trees. David, who had been watching from the edge of the gathering, stepped forward. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "I love Nia," he declared, his blue eyes locking with the chief's. "I don't wish to change your ways, but I cannot change my heart. I ask only for your blessing, so that we may be together." The silence that followed was deafening. The chief's face was hard, his eyes searching his daughters for a moment of doubt. But Nia stood tall, her chin lifted, her heart laid bare for all to see. The chief, torn between love for his daughter and his duty to the tribe, said nothing. He turned and walked away, retreating into his hut. For days, the village buzzed with debate. Some supported Nia and David, admiring their courage to follow their hearts. Others were outraged, insisting that tradition must be respected. The elders met in secret, discussing what should be done, but no solution seemed right. Nia and David were left in limbo, their future uncertain. They continued to meet in secret, but their joy was now tinged with fear. What would become of them? Would they be torn apart by the very traditions that had once guided their lives? Finally, after days of silence, the chief called for a gathering. The entire village gathered under the towering baobab tree, the air thick with anticipation. Nia and David stood side by side, their hands clasped, their hearts beating as one. The chief's voice was heavy with sorrow and wisdom as he spoke. "Love is a force more powerful than tradition," he said. "It can build or it can destroy. I cannot change the customs of our ancestors, but I cannot deny the strength of your love. If you are to be together, it will not be here." Tears filled Nia's eyes, but she did not argue. She knew the sacrifice her father was making, and she would honor it. David squeezed her hand, his love for her stronger than ever. And so Nia and David were exiled from the village. They packed their few belongings and left the life they had known. The villagers watched them go, some with sadness, others with anger. But Nia and David did not look back. Together they walked into the unknown, their love guiding them like a beacon in the night. They traveled for days, through forests and across rivers, until they found a new place to call home. There, in the quiet of the wilderness, they built a life together. Their love, once forbidden, now flourished in the open, free from the constraints of tradition. Years passed, and their love only grew stronger. They raised a family, teaching their children the importance of love, courage, and sacrifice. The stories of their love traveled back to the village, where it became a legend told by the elders around the fire. And so, the story of Nia and David was passed down from generation to generation, a tale of love that defied tradition, of courage that broke boundaries, and of a bond that could not be broken.